Did you know that during surgery, you can sustain a fracture or a break to the bone during the actual operation? Hello, welcome back to the channel. I'm Adam Rosen. Thanks again for tuning in. And first and foremost, I do not want to scare you, but as you can tell from my channel and all my patients that I've met in the office, I like to educate patients. I feel that patients should be informed. And when I talk to patients about surgery and we go all over all the risks, infections and blood clots and blood transfusions, etc., one of the risks that can occur during orthopedic surgery is a break in the bone or a fracture. And for those of you that are questioning fracture break, same thing. They're identical. They're words that are used interchangeably. People think fracture is worse than break or vice versa, but they're the same thing. And jumping right in, we've even done a study on this specifically for knee replacements, intraoperative fractures. But jumping right in, hip replacement, knee replacement, I'm going to sort of cover from top down. So when we do a hip replacement and we are preparing the cup, which is called the acetabulum, we have to ream it, which, as graphic as it might sound, looks like a half circle, almost like a mini cheese grater, and it smooths out and makes a nice circumferential space for us to put a cup in. Now, during that process, you can cause a fracture of the bone. And actually, during the implantation, so when we're putting this implant in, typically we are under reaming by one, meaning we make a hemisphere that's 53 millimeters in diameter, and we put in a cup that's 54 millimeters, so it's a wedge fit. And to insert it tightly enough that you can stand and walk on it, we have to hit it quite hard. And in doing so, you can fracture the pelvis. Now, sometimes a small fracture, we can get away with just putting some screws into the cup. If there's a big fracture, sometimes we'll need plates and screws. And sometimes if the fracture is not seen, and then someone walks on it, it can do bigger damage and get what's called a pelvic discontinuity, which is a big deal in our world. And you might need additional plates and screws and jumbo cups and cages, and it's a mess. But for the most part, it's fixable. Now, if we talk a little bit lower down on the thigh bone or what's called the femur, we are making a cut with a saw. And there are two main ways that I see fractures occur during that surgery. One is with the retractor. So a retractor is basically a metal instrument that we use to lift and kind of wedge up the thigh bone so we can see the opening so we can prepare the bone. We definitely see this more frequently in the anterior approach as opposed to the posterior approach, the way that the retractor is set. But it can happen in any approach. And that is usually a small crack, and it can be fixed quite easily if it's identified. The other area where we can cause a fracture commonly at the top of the thigh bone, top of the femur, is when we're putting in the broaches or implants. So the broaches are basically the exact same shape and size as the implants, but we might start with, say, a size 2 if you're a size 7, and we might broach up 2, 3, 4, basically preparing the bone to accept the 7. Now, if you have a tight bone or there's an anatomy that's sort of different from the fit of the implant, or it's tight and we hit it a little too hard during either the broaching or the actual implantation of the implant, it's like a wedge and it will split the femur. Now, again, if you catch it early and there's a small crack, we can usually just put a cable around it and tighten it down. So you might wake up and on the x-ray see a little cable around the top of the thigh bone. That was a small crack that didn't go further. I always say it's kind of like if you were putting in a screw in an old board and you turned and went and you saw a little crack. You stop, you can over drill the hole a little bit. There's some other little tricks that you can use, but then you can kind of put that screw in and it works. And the same thing in our femur is if you hit it gently, and I always teach our young doctors is you don't pick up the hammer and hit, 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 hit. It's like a crescendo, decrescendo. You hit it softly, see where it sits. If it's not down, you hit it a little harder until it starts to get close, and then you back off the impact. And that's the art of surgery, because if you're hitting it hard, you might have a small crack and then hit it two more times, and now you split the whole femur in half. Then usually needs plates and screws and more cables, and it's a much longer construct. Now, if we go down to the knee, in the knee, basically thigh bone, shin bone, it's rare to break the kneecap during knee replacement surgery. But if you cut the bone too thin and someone falls or hits it, there's a chance the kneecap could break down the road. And kneecap fractures are probably one of the worst fractures that we see in people that have knee replacements. The outcomes are never very good. Even if we fix them, people tend to have stiffness and loss of motion and weakness. But on the thigh bone side, when we are cutting the bone, and again, putting in the trials. The trial is the exact same shape and size of the actual implant, or when we're actually putting the actual implant on, as you're hitting it, again, you can break it. And there's certain designs, like a posterior stabilized design that has a box, leaves two what we call condyles. So there's basically two condyles and a gap in between. And if the implant is off a little bit, there's a greater chance of knocking the condyle off. And if that happens, usually a screw or two can fix that. And then tend to be fine. Sometimes we will add a rod to the end of the thigh bone. It's like a post that stabilizes the bone up into the thigh bone itself. And rarely do we see bad breaks of the end of the femur during knee replacement. These are typically people that have had a knee replacement and then fall, and they will actually break the thigh bone at the bottom, but above the knee replacement. And that requires either rods or plates or screws. And in certain instances, if like the bone was shattered, let's say the knee's been in for 20 years, you're older and have osteoporosis, and the implant's loose and the bone's just gone, we can actually replace the entire bottom of your thigh bone, what's called a distal femoral replacement. And if we go down to the shin bone, or what's called the tibia, again, same sort of things that when we're putting in retractors to protect soft tissue and protect the saw from damaging structures, we're using the saw to make cuts. Once we do that, we're preparing the bone. And in doing so, during the preparation or during the implantation of the actual implant, you can cause a crack in the bone. So if the implant goes in crooked, you might crack one side. Sometimes you're just hitting it down. If the bone's soft, it can split open. And usually, again, if it's a small crack, we identify it. Usually a screw or two is enough to hold it in place. And we might augment that with a rod that goes a little bit deeper into your shin bone. But if there's a bad break, sometimes it requires plates and screws to put that back together. Now, you might think that we're done. There's one other fracture that we do see that can occur typically during hip replacement surgery. And this is specifically anterior approach hip replacement surgery on table. So you can do the anterior approach on table or off table. And when you do it on table, the foot is basically in like a ski boot. And a lot of times, someone not scrubbed into the operation at the bottom of the table is the person that surgeon would ask to loosen up the foot and rotate the leg in or out. And sometimes in doing so, if patients are older and they have osteoporosis, if someone cranks it too much, they can actually break the ankle. And last thing you want to hear when you wake up from your hip replacement surgery is that, oh, and we also have to schedule ankle surgery for you tomorrow. And the one other thing that I probably, when we talk about rotation, the one other thing that I forgot to mention that kind of is mid thigh for hip replacements in particular is that when we do a hip replacement, we are dislocating the ball from the socket and then relocating it with the trials to test the stability. And then we might dislocate it again, put the actual implants in and relocate it. So in those times, you might have at least two dislocations and relocations. And sometimes what can happen is if things are tight and the ball sort of gets stuck or trapped on the cup and we're trying to rotate it, a lot of times the surgeon can't do everything himself. So he's got assistants and he might be saying, okay, pull, okay, rotate. And if someone rotates too quickly or too hard before they can say stop, it's stuck, what can happen is that the femur can actually break. And that becomes a loud crack and everybody stops and we get plates and screws and put it back together. So again, I am not here to scare you away from surgery. I just want you to know that these risks are exceedingly rare. They rarely happen. And when they happen, we know what to do. Everybody stops. We ask the circulating nurse to open up the other tray of plates and cables or screws, and we bring them in and we fix everything and we put it all back together. Now, will this alter your recovery? Maybe. So it depends on the fracture, depends on how strong it was when it was put back together. So you might have to protect your weight bearing for a period of time until the bone heals. Some fractures, like when you have a small crack at the top of the thigh bone for a hip replacement and we put a cable, normal recovery. I always tell my patients, hey, look, broke your femur during surgery, put a cable to protect it. If I didn't tell you, didn't see the x-ray, you'd never know. walk on it, do all your normal things, and you'll be fine. But if it's a bigger fracture, plates and screws, and we have to protect your weight bearing, you have to be on, crutches or a walker for 6 to 12 weeks. That's a different scenario, and that kind of changes the recovery timeline. So I hope you've found this information helpful. If you did sustain a fracture and you're interested in sharing with others, let us know what surgery you had, what fracture you had, and maybe how it affected your recovery. Until next time, if you enjoy this content, leave a thumbs up, subscribe, click the notifications tab. I will see you next time. Stay safe. I'm Adam Rosen. Thanks for watching.